What is up, everyone, y bienvenidos de vuelta al hype train de Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. By now, most of you should know that the new region is clearly based on Spain, but just how much Spanish influence will there be in these new games? Judging by this first trailer, it looks like quite a lot, and today we're gonna break down all those references. And before we get into it, I guess I'll clarify that I myself am Puerto Rican and have never once been to Spain in my life, but thankfully, the wonderful editor Sama, aka Lugre, has actually lived in Spain his whole life and helped me with some of the references we can see in this trailer and what they're based on in the real life locations. So hope you guys are excited, and let's get into it. Denle al botón de like. I don't think there's a way to say like in Spanish. It's just like. The trailer begins with a live action segment where we see a cop investigating the Game Freak offices, seeing what those crazy dudes over there have been up to. And it's pretty easy to miss, but the board on the wall there actually has a map of the Iberian Peninsula hanging up, which is of course where Spain is located, along with Portugal and a couple of other territories from other countries, like there's even a part of France near the top of it. So right off the bat, that confirms the region geographically is based on the Iberian Peninsula, which again connects to France, and that has led some people to believe that maybe this new region will connect to the Kalos region, as on the Kalos region map, you can actually see to the south there is a mountain range, but in the real world there is a mountain range also separating France from Spain. And we can even see that mountain range in the very first shot of the trailer. I believe they're called the Pyrenees Mountain Range in English, or Pirineos in Spanish, and they happen to be just north of Barcelona, which is actually what this first city we see in the trailer is based on. Now there's a few things to confirm it, but the main and most obvious one is the giant church-like building that in these games appears to be a gym, or maybe even the Pokemon League since it's so big and crazy looking. And this giant construction is based off the Sagrada Familia, which is a basilica in Barcelona that's apparently been under construction for over 100 years now. Like, they just never finish it. But I mean, it looks pretty freaking amazing just how it is right now. I would love to visit that place, but I'll at least settle for visiting it in the Pokemon world, where it looks like it's actually been finished constructing and even has a couple of extra features like what looks to be a tree. And in this shot from later in the trailer, we can also see a glass dome at the top of the right side, which could be a reference to another building in Barcelona. I found this one specifically, which is a clothes store, but I feel like this might be a common thing in the architecture over there in general. But in case you're not convinced just yet, there is yet another reference to Barcelona, and that is the very colorful plaza that we find in the middle of the city where Pikachus hang in, which is based off the real-life location called the Parque Güell, or Güell Park. Little fun fact about this place, it's actually designed by the same architect as the Sagrada Familia Cathedral, or big church building. It's the same architect that designed both of these and a bunch of other crazy buildings in Barcelona that I wouldn't be surprised to see also show up in the new Pokemon games. Not only are the colorful tiles of this park referenced, but also the decorative towers in this one shot. You can see one that looks pretty similar. The actual plaza in the center, though, appears to take inspiration from a few different parts of Spain. Like, the actual design with the spikes and the circle looks pretty similar to the Plaza De Catalunya in Barcelona, where you can see it has this kind of circle with the star in the middle. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the plaza itself with the big buildings surrounding it actually looks a bit closer to the real-life location known as Plaza Mayor in Madrid, which is the other biggest city in Spain. The last thing I want to point out is in this first shot, we see another big building to the left, kind of outside of the city, and I really don't know what that could be. I tried looking up if maybe it's like a football stadium, like how we had in Galler, the Winden Stadium, based off the Wembley Arena, I think, in London, but I couldn't really find anything that looks like that, so if any of you guys know, drop it in the comments below. And if the map of the region lines up with the real world, then that means this city will be located in the top right corner of the region, which is funny because that's like the only area that hasn't been shown off from the maps we've gotten in the trailer so far. This is a Photoshop connecting the two parts of the map that have been shown in the trailer so far, and yeah, the whole top right chunk is missing, which is funny because like everything we've seen so far is Spain, and this is mainly showing where like Portugal would be in the real world. But just because we haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that we're not going to get some Portugal references in the game. It's just definitely very Spanish for now, and you'll see that throughout the rest of this video. The general landscape shots that we get in the trailer are all very heavily Spanish as well, with the windmills showing up, which are very common over there. Even I know that since they're featured in the classic novel Don Quixote. Man was straight up fighting a windmill. And it looks like we'll actually be able to climb up one of them, judging by this scene right here. There's like a ladder snaking around it. According to Editor Sama, Spain is home to a variety of different biomes, including forests, mountains, lakes, beaches, and even a desert, which is featured in the trailer. We can see Stonjorner slowly pacing through it. And this could be based off the real-life Tabernas Desert located in the south of Spain. There's also a few areas with swamps or marshes where we see the little Psyducks marching. While doing research, the most popular one I found was the Doñana National Park. But on the actual region map, we can see a pretty big area of lake or marsh, like basically just a giant body of water in the top left corner. So that could actually be where the Psyduck were, or this scene we saw earlier with a giant lake surrounded by little islands. And again, this type of landscape is common all over Spain. Like, I really just need to take a trip over there and see it for myself. But next we are moving on to the player's house, which right off the bat, the architecture screams Spanish colonial style house, straight up looking like the casita out of Encanto. I don't know if that was Spanish actually, but I don't know, it's a good reference, okay? And I know it was kind of a meme, but I actually love the variety of trees here. We have like some pines behind the house, the little orange trees, and some palms as well, and even that giant one back there. Game Freak really upped their game with the graphics. Like, I gotta give credit, at least for the diversity. And like the clothes swaying in the wind, I just noticed there's a little, I don't know what that's called, but those are also in Puerto Rico. People will just have a little like place you can connect a hose outside the house. I mean, I think that's in America too, but they don't look like that. Anyway, this whole area appears to be based off an island called Mallorca. In all the shots that we see, it is clearly surrounded by water, so it definitely looks like an island. And according to Editor Sama, this island is a popular tourist spot, which matches with this building across from the player's house, looking like it could be a hotel or resort of some sort. It could also be the professor's mansion, but regardless, the idea of it being a tiny island off the coast of the mainland does make sense to me, especially when you consider in the real world the island of Palma? Oh wait, is it called Mallorca or Palma? Well, either way, it's off the coast of Valencia and Barcelona, which is the area most known for growing oranges. And as you can see in the trailer, all around the player's house, we've got plenty of orange trees. And if you go back even to the big city, there's like a little orange tree right next to Blissey. So again, it matches up geographically. Like maybe you start off on this little island and eventually move over to the mainland, and that's when the open world really begins. Inside the player's house is possibly where we get the most Spanish references ever, like the architecture, the stairs, and all of the paintings, like this one being a flamenco dancer. And even the little plate hanging up on the wall, like I'm pretty sure I've seen one of those at my grandma's house and maybe broke it on accident and then got the chancla. But anyway, as we move upstairs, I love that you can actually still see the dancer painting behind there and also the Switch OLED. Unrelated to the Spain references, but I love this shot right here where it transitions from the Switch in-game to the real-life Switch OLED. The transition is so smooth, dude. Like, I can get it down to the exact frame, and they lined it up perfectly. Like, I gotta give a shout out to the live action team for setting this up so good. Before moving on to that live action part though, there's one last thing I wanted to mention about the overworld, and that is the Pokemon centers, which we see plenty of times throughout this trailer. In fact, just in this first shot, you can see two of them, one right in front of the city and another one kind of hiding out behind it. And what's really caught my attention is the fact they look like gas stations. That's not just me imagining things, right? Like the way that the roof is shaped and like, I don't know, the base of it, plus the giant spinning sign coming out from the top. You can see that spinning sign a little bit more clearly in this shot, and yeah, just the way that the building is shaped definitely looks like a gas station, and makes me wonder, since this is going to be an open world game, maybe there's a new way of getting around these huge open areas, like some kind of motorized bike or moped like in Luca. We got the Vespa. That's another Disney reference for you. It would be kind of weird if you just ran out of fuel. Like, what, are you gonna walk back to the Pokemon Center? But at the same time, there would be like a reason to go visit the Pokemon Centers other than just healing. And since these areas are pretty freaking sprawling, and yeah, I would imagine imagine there's some faster way of getting around than just walking from place to place. Just look at the distance between this cave and then all the way up to the windmills. I can imagine that would take a while to walk all the way through, so there's got to be some other new way of getting around, whether it's Poke Ride or the Rotom Bike or some kind of other thing that actually requires you to visit these gas station Pokemon centers. I don't know. It could totally just be like a fun new design for them and it has nothing to do with what I'm guessing, but it's a fun prediction. So let's finally talk about these dang oranges and grapes. You've probably seen people talking about them on the internet, and it refers to these two shields that we see during the end of the trailer on either side of the door. They look like family crests, like those shields that like old school families would have designed to represent their like last name or like their whole family tree. And that's funny because they're fruits. You know, fruits come from trees. Yeah, there's an orange and a grape shield, which immediately made me think of the colors of the game Scarlet and Violet, but oranges aren't exactly scarlet, and grapes, yeah, they're definitely violet, but I think it's more likely that it represents the school uniforms, as you can see a much more orange tone on the Pokemon Scarlet uniform, and then obviously Violet is just like purple like grapes. So could these two shields represent the two schools that our character comes from? Maybe that building we saw earlier on the island is actually a school and not a resort, even though it definitely looks like some kind of hotel, not a school. But I have to imagine that with the colors matching up, it can't be a coincidence, and it has been confirmed that depending on which version you pick, like your school uniform at the start will be different. Don't know if we actually get to see the little crest. Oh no, it definitely looks like the little orange shield right there on the trainer's back. So yeah, that pretty much confirms it. The two shields represent the school that you go to, I guess. Depending on what version of the game you pick, you'll either have the orange crest or the grape crest. Now, you're probably wondering what these oranges and grapes have got to do with Spain, and I've already mentioned that oranges are a very commonly grown fruit in Spain. There's a lot of orange orchards, specifically in the Valencia region on the east side of Spain, which is also where Barcelona is, so it makes sense for all of these areas that have appeared in the game so far to have orange trees. But where does that leave the grapes? Well, here's a fun fact for you. Spain is actually the second largest producer of wine in the world. So yeah, there's a lot of grapes and vineyards out there. Maybe not on the East Coast where most of the shots in this trailer are from, so we're probably gonna see like vineyards or vineyards, however you say that, later on, like in future cities and trailers. They even reference this in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Shout out to Centro Pokemon for finding this one. I don't actually remember what area of Sword this is in. It looks like a hotel of some kind, but yeah, you can see the wallpaper there, grapes and oranges. So they hinted Gen 9 even back in Sword and Shield. Of course, no one would have been able to guess that, because like grapes and oranges, like what? Pokemon Orange, man, why couldn't they name the game Pokemon Orange? And to wrap things up, we've got the starter Pokemon. Even these guys aren't safe from the Spanish influence, because our favorite little Sprigatito appears to be based on the Iberian lynx, which is an endangered species that's been slowly clawing its way back or out of extinction. And the real life animal looks so dope. Like, I hope that this is what the final evolution ends up looking like, you know, more feral and on all fours. Like, please don't do it like Incineroar again. That's all I'm asking. Editor Sama has some funny takes on the other two starters, with Fuecoco being based on a pimiento or a pepper. I've actually seen this a lot online, like people saying it's like a pepper with the two little things coming out of its head. I personally don't really see it. I'm more on the side that it's like a little crocodile with the volcano spouting, but I mean, yeah, pepper would still make sense because fire is hot. But my favorite is Quaxley, the little duck. It's just a Spanish guy. I could see it though, with the little hair that he's got going. He's very preppy, and I've totally seen guys that look like that over here too, with that kind of style that I guess are called pijos in Spain. Maybe Quaxley is a pijo after all. Just in this short trailer, we got so many references to Spain, and if this first city is based off Barcelona, I can't even imagine what the biggest city in the region, Madrid, in real life is the biggest city in Spain. What is that city gonna look like? Dude, it's gonna be insane, and I can't wait for the whole region. Like, doing the research for this video, I learned so much about Spain and the different areas and cities in it, and I am so excited because of the fact this is also an open world game. There's gonna be so many biomes to explore in between, and big cities with cultural references, which I've seen some people call out that like they're not coming up with original ideas anymore, they're just copying real life locations. But I kind of like the fact that these regions are so heavily inspired by their real life counterpart. There's people that don't like the fact that like Galar was like a dumbed down version of the UK, or like it only took the biggest stereotypes or whatever. I don't know though. I think it's cool to see a region like heavily influenced by real life culture, even if it's not like super accurately represented. Anyway, I am very excited for these games. Thank you so much to Editor Sama, not just for editing this video, but also all the Spain references that you sent me. Couldn't do it without you, buddy, and I couldn't do it without all of you guys watching. So leave a like down below if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't yet for plenty more of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet hype train coming up, and I'll catch you in the next video.